You are listening to Midlife with Courage. This is where women in midlife come for inspiration, motivation, and sometimes a little education to help them flourish after 40. And if you want to go deeper into these conversations and get a little bit more personal with me, make sure you subscribe to the unfiltered episodes. These are bonus episodes only for my subscribers, where I go a little bit further in our conversations and put my own personal spin on them. You won't want to miss it, and it's also a great way to support the show. Now let's get started on this episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Midlife with Courage. I am so happy you're all here listening, and I'm also very happy to have my guest here with me today. Her name is April Garcia. Welcome to the podcast, April.
Hi, Kim. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I can already tell this is going to be a great conversation. So let's just jump in, and we're going to talk about the rooms that you've built in the past. Tell us what that means. What is that?
Yes, I'm excited about this because the rooms theory is kind of my whole game. So essentially, the rooms theory and my book that coordinates with that is The Room to Be Brave. And the rooms kind of came to me because I have a whole history. Who doesn't? We have this whole history of life behind us, right? And all
Sure.
these memories that come to us in the moments we want them to come to us. And then sometimes they surprise us, these memories and these thoughts. But for me, when they come back, any of my memories, my history, I see the room where they happened in. I have a very visual brain. So when I was going back to kind of work through my life and settle out my history of trauma and my history of just experiences and try and heal who I am and be the best version of myself, I literally was going into these rooms. I keep saying literally when I tell this story, but it's metaphorically going into these rooms to kind of sit in the space and figure out who I am because of these experiences. So I believe that we all carry our past in that way. We've compartmentalized these memories and these experiences and left them in the rooms where they happened. So
Mhm.
that's kind of my whole thing is going back into the rooms and sitting with the pieces of ourselves that we left in there.
Yeah, I love that you did it that way. I'm a visual person too, so I love that the imagery because if I'm thinking of something that's happened in the past, it brings up those feelings that were there too.
Yeah.
And if you can actually see it in your mind, it just helps you kind of experience it again.
For better or worse, right? So
Right.
some experiences in some rooms, as soon as those feelings and that memory start to come up, we slam the door, we run away, we shut it down. Like I'm not going to even visualize the room
Hmm.
because I don't want to feel what I felt in that moment.
Yes.
Right? Sometimes we want to. Like, I want to go back and think about the times I spent with family members who are no longer here, right? I want to stay in
Yeah.
those rooms. Those are like
Hmm.
magical rooms where you get to time travel and be with them.
Yeah.
But other rooms, you just are like, I cannot feel that again. I am not boom, boom. And you like shut the door and that's it. We're not going in.
Yeah.
But I found that the true healing has actually come from sitting in those spaces and opening those doors.
And as you just alluded to, it can be painful to go back to those rooms.
Yes. I think it's important to note, though, that it's never been as painful as the first experience in there. So, does
Oh,
that make sense? So, like,
yes.
say just something not as like significant as like this horrible trauma, right? But something embarrassing, right?
Hmm.
You feel that like when it first happened, you're in that space, you're flushed, your stomach is queasy, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. When you go back to stay in that space, it doesn't feel as intense as it did the first time, but I think we
Sure.
shut the door because we're afraid that it will. But it doesn't,
Hmm.
it can't because you've already survived that moment. You've already gone through it. You're coming back with a fresh perspective and clearer eyes than you did in the space originally.
Sure.
So it is important to note that you're not going to feel it as intensely as you did before, even though you feel like you might.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because that does make sense. And is it the more you revisit it, the less intense it is each time?
100%. So it almost becomes like exposure therapy. It's like
Hmm.
a new twist on exposure therapy is that the more you sit in that space and the more you get comfortable in that, you almost get to see it. Like I kind of alluded to, it's like a fresh perspective. And you're making a choice to be in that room and in that situation now, where originally you didn't have the choice necessarily.
Mm.
So going back, so like things that happened to me when I was 14, going back at 47 with all of the life experience I have now and knowing I survived and knowing that I'm a better person now because of the strength I gained from that time, going back and looking at that experience differently changes everything. So
Sure.
where the first time it was scary and I was vulnerable and I was a child and I had no power or control. Now I'm going back in like, okay, I can see that this other person in the room with me also had no control and I can
Yeah.
see a totally different perspective.
Yeah. And you do have an interesting, I guess interesting might not be the best word, but a story of growing up, and there's so much there. Where would you like to share that with our listeners?
Sure, I know there is so much, right? It's so funny because people are like, "Wow, you had so much happen to you." I'm like, "That's the book isn't even all of it. I had to pull stories out, otherwise it would be
Oh my
unbelievable.
gosh.
It would literally be like, well, this is not believable. But yeah, that's my life. But essentially, I grew up with a lot of instability, I like to call it. It was given away when I was born, given up for adoption, I should say,
Mhm.
and then a year later taken back. So
Mm.
that that I don't remember. I learned that as an adult that happened, and then I grew up with a mother who just was she was not healed herself, and she had a lot of demons that she was carrying from her own childhood. So there was a lot of abuse, and there was a lot of her taking us, my brother and I, to other family members, other friends, and kind of just like relinquishing us, like, I
Mhm.
can't deal, you should. So
Wow.
there's a lot of abandonment and really instability. We moved around a lot. In the third grade, I moved 8 times. It was in 8 different
Wow.
schools. So talk about like no sense of belonging anywhere. And that's
Right.
like the framework for who you are, right?
Yeah.
In those years.
Oh my
So
gosh. Yeah.
right. So like I grew up thinking I don't belong anywhere. I don't belong to anybody. So that was a lot to overcome. But right. So then at 14, I was back with my mother, and there was the abuse was kind of picking up a little bit. There was a lot going on in our lives that kind of turned her that way. But my stepfather was an alcoholic, and she had a new baby, and there was just a lot going on in our lives that I think triggered a lot emotionally for her, where she wasn't feeling safe in her own self. And so the abuse started to pick up, and it got to a point where I had to turn her into the police for child abuse, which is saying it now and having a daughter who's 16 and thinking of what that would take for her and how that would feel for me is just unbelievable. But I did that. I was away from home for 6 months in the system in Orange County in California, where children go who have no family. And then I was taken in by a family member, and we went through the court systems and therapy and all that, and then was returned to home. So a lot of instability in my childhood that followed me as an adult because, again, I never had what people would consider like a home.
Mhm.
I can't go back home, right? People from college are like, "I'm just going home for the weekend." I'm like, I don't have one of those.
Oh.
I just never registered that, and I had like a home or a soft landing anywhere. So I did leave California when I was 18, 19 years old because I found myself getting into a lot of trouble, alcohol and unsafe choices, being
Mhm.
promiscuous and just really putting myself in a lot of dangerous situations. And I felt like the only thing I could do at that point was run away from the situations I had put myself in. I think a lot of us do that, right? We're like,
Sure.
okay, this is terrible. I've made a mess, and I'm just going to, again, shut the door
There you go.
and run and be like, everything's going to be fine. The problem with that is I still came with me.
That's one of the things you say in the book too. You can't outrun yourself.
But turns out she goes everywhere with me.
Yeah.
She was a mess. But so everything I was doing in California, it just followed me to the Midwest, is where I ended up landing. And oh God, I turned Iowa upside down. The 8 years I spent there, I don't think they were ready for the likes of me. was doing the same thing, a lot of drinking, a lot of putting myself into situations that were not good. And then, I spent 8 years doing that there and got married and divorced there, fought a deadly bacteria meningitis when I was there and almost lost my life. And then decided, you know what? I made a mess of this state. And pick another state, and I moved to New York. And again, I came with me. So I still had a lot of demons to settle as I moved to New York. But over the last couple of years, now that I'm in my 40s, I've finally started to work through some of that. But
Sure.
there's so many layers in my story. I feel like I was like, I did this, this, and this. There's so many layers in my story, and a lot of it piles on top of each other.
Hmm.
So it's like the mistakes and the things I was doing in my 20s and in my 30s all came from the experiences I had when I was a child
Sure.
and the belief system I built as a child. That was a really long answer to your question.
No, that was amazing. Yeah. I mean, there's so much there. Have you heard the phrase, wherever you go, there you are?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I wish somebody would have said that to me when I was, like, 12. Like, I
Yeah.
made so much money in, like, suitcases and
You know
airfare.
what though? I think I know, and I say the same thing about, stuff. Oh, I wish I would have known as a younger person, but at that age you probably didn't have the capacity to realize and do anything about it, you
It's
know?
true. I'm
So you have to
sure
give
people
yourself
said
grace.
things. Yeah, you're right. Because 'cause I'm sure
Yeah.
people said things like, "Girl, settle down," and I was
Yeah.
like, "I know what I'm doing. I got this. Don't worry. I know
Oh,
what I'm doing." I'm sure, you're right. They probably did
yeah.
say that plenty, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Through the book, you share your experiences, and I know you met a wonderful person, a man who you married and have a daughter. You mentioned her earlier. You also became a certified occupational therapy assistant, which yay,
Mhm.
good for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, my daughter is actually she went to school for that and she worked that until COVID. Then she couldn't do it
That's a hard,
anymore.
yeah. We
It's
lost a
a
lot
hard.
of good people, like,
Yeah.
in the profession
Mhm.
after COVID. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the stories in the book was you had a therapist come in and try and tell you that you were going to be limited, you aren't going to be able to do certain things. Can you talk about that a little bit? That situation?
I hate that guy. No, I don't hate that guy. That's mean. He's terrible at his job. So after the meningitis, I was diagnosed with meningitis at 22. And for those of people who don't know 100% what that is, I had bacterial meningitis. And I woke up very sick one day and was in a coma the next day. So meningitis is just like horribly fast acting, deadly, very, very deadly
Mm.
infection. There are, symptoms I put in my book, like things to look out for just to hopefully prevent it from happening to other people, like not preventing meningitis, but the death from it. So
Sure.
I spent a month in the hospital. I was on a ventilator for 9 days. I was in a coma for five
Mm.
days. And I ended up when I left the hospital, I was 95 pounds and I couldn't stand, I couldn't walk. But one of the biggest things was they had to amputate some of my fingers. So I
Mm.
lost three fingers on the left hand and a tip of one on the right. So I had these surgeries at 22 years old that you've been dealing with your full set of fingers your whole life, and now I needed
Yeah.
to transition into how do I function, and you don't think about all the ways you use your hands, but you literally use them for everything. Even
Right.
talking, I like
Yeah.
I'm handsy. So I had when I went home from the hospital, I needed physical therapy and occupational therapy. And physical therapist was fantastic. He was like 90 feet tall. He had to like duck to get into our so he was so wonderful though. But the occupational therapist who came for the home care brought a book of adaptive devices and
Mm.
was essentially he said, I'm sorry this happened to you, but I think from here on out, like you're never going to be the same. And there's a lot of things you're not going to be able to do the same way you did before. And some things like you just won't be able to do again. And I was so defeated because at that point I still couldn't walk. Like my mom was still toileting me and bathing
Mm.
me. So to hear like you're not gonna get that back essentially and like your independence is gone forever or the way that who you were is gone forever. And I was already dealing with looking at my body
Oh,
that wasn't mine or didn't look like mine.
right.
And to hear that, like, my life wouldn't look the same was it was too much. So he left, and I was like, "I'm this person, I'm a problem solver." I'm like, "To hell with you." I fired him immediately, called the service, "This is not gonna
Good.
work out." Yeah, because he was giving me, like, a pen, like, a stick to type with, and, like, springy shoelaces so I wouldn't have to tie my shoes, and He's like, "I'm 22 years old. I'm a bartender. Like, I'm adorable. I can't be like this." Like, I couldn't I literally thought who I was, but, I couldn't see not being able to do things the way that I wanted to do them.
Sure.
So I grabbed a pair of drawstring pants and I sat at the edge of the bed and I just tried and then failed and tried and failed and tried and failed until I figured out a way to tie my drawstring and then kept doing it until it happened just as quickly and as naturally as it had before the meningitis.
Mhm.
So I was doing it in a different way, obviously, because I'm missing some of the fingers required to do it the old way, but
Sure.
I'm doing it just as quickly and I'm doing it independently. And that was the biggest thing for
Mm.
me. So that guy, I hope he's had a lot of like continuing education, found a way forward that was like, let me help you be independent. But what that triggered for me, 15 years later or so was now I'm working in occupational therapy. I get like emotional because I get to be the person now that comes in the room and is saying, maybe you won't be able to do this the same way you did before, but you're still going to do what you want to do. Let's find a way. And I get to be very creative in that. And I also get to bring my own backstory into the room and sit with these people with an understanding of where they are now to some extent. So it's been
Right.
just such a gift to be able to work in this profession.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. That is such a gift to be able to tell them and show them,
Yeah.
"Look, what you can do this because I've done it too."
Yeah. I'd say to a lot of my the facility I'm at now, we have a vent unit where people are on ventilators, and I mean these are the they've been to hell and back,
Mm.
and the recovery from zero is hard. And I can
Sure.
sit with them and say like, I get it. Like I've been in the bed. I get that I'm asking you to do things that are so hard, but like let's do it together. Like it's such a gift. It's such a blessing to be able to do that for with
Yeah.
people and it's healing for me.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, like I found a purpose for my pain and what I went through, and it's like magical. I love it.
I just totally got goosebumps when you said that. I think that's
Oh,
amazing. I love that a lot. Wow. Yeah. I'm getting emotional for you almost.
oh, I
Um,
know. I'm like, feel along with
there we go.
you.
Awesome. Well, April, I always like to ask my guests to tell us when was a time when you felt the most courageous? And you have a ton of them, I bet. But what sticks out to you?
Oh my goodness. I think telling my story and writing the book was a really big moment, but I couldn't have done that had I not gotten sober. So
Okay.
I think sobriety and admitting that I can't be someone who drinks alcohol leisurely. I'm just
Mm.
not a normal drinker, quote unquote, and admitting that what I had been doing was self-medicating and trying to avoid all of these rooms. And at the end of the day, I was, it was, I don't want to say selfish, like people who drink are selfish, but selfish in that I was avoiding all of the healing I needed to do to be a better person for the people around me. So,
Mhm.
selfish in that way, but not consciously selfish. So I think admitting finally that I needed to A, stop drinking and drowning all of my sorrows in alcohol, as fun as it looked like at the time to me, and then going back into the rooms and dealing with my history of traumas, I think that was really my bravest, most courageous moment.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with that. I bet that, yeah, that's amazing. So I'm just thinking as you wrote the book, I know no one's ever completely healed from all their
No.
trauma, but did
Mm-mm.
the book help you heal maybe more than you already were?
Yeah, I would say so. The writing is very cathartic. So
Mm.
even just the way that I was sharing my story was very helpful to me to be able to move through other parts of my story. So as
Yeah,
I started to write about returning to the rooms to heal, there were spaces I had not gone into that I needed to be able to tell the whole story and to be able to tell the story in a way that would be impactful to other people and to give them like the idea of why I was the way I was and why I had to do what I had to do.
sure.
So, for example, I didn't put the chapter in there about all the terrible things I did. Well, some of the terrible things I did while I was drinking.
Mm.
And that chapter was not in the book until like 5 minutes before I published because I hadn't gone into those rooms. They didn't want to.
Interesting.
Who wants to it's so easy to be like, "Look at what all these people did to me," like, for me, right? But to
Mhm.
go into a room where you're the problem, God, that was the last set of rooms that I was like, I don't wanna do this." But I think
Yeah.
to tell my story honestly, I had to tell, like, I'm also not a problem, but I also caused a lot of trouble for myself,
Yeah.
and these are the mistakes I made. So it was funny because my husband was like, "Oh, did you put the story in there where you passed out on my parents' porch and on my sister's birthday? And did you put this story?" And I was like, "No, those are not funny stories to me. Like those
Yeah.
are humiliating and dark to me. Like I love that you think it's funny, but it's not funny to me." And I went to bed that night, and the next morning I woke up and was like, "Damn it, I can't put those stories in there."
He's
And,
right.
yeah, I hate when he does that. So I sat down and I started to do the same process I had done for the other rooms, and I sat and I journaled and I meditated and, I talked through them, and so it really did lead me to work on starting to heal some of those spaces too. So
Mm.
I would say some rooms, and they led to other rooms that led to other rooms, and I like that you said that no one's ever healed because no, I have just mansions of rooms that I still need to go through, and I'm working on it, and I'm
Yeah.
happy to be saying that I am working on it, but I don't think we're ever gonna finish. I'm building rooms that I need to recover from, right? Like, I'm
Sure,
still
sure. Yeah.
creating spaces that I will need to go back and be like, "Oh, wow, I didn't handle that correctly," or, "Wow, that hit me harder than I expected," or those kind of things.
Yeah. Yeah. The imagery just sticks out in my mind. It's so cool because, like, okay, well, I've been in that room and I get it. And okay, now it's a better place. I can go in there or I don't have to.
Yes.
It's kind of like there's a door there, in or out.
Mhm.
Another thing, too, I wanted to talk about that really kind of it hit me a little bit because I know a lot of people who have anxiety. And you talk about your daughter, you talk about using your experience with anxiety to help her at times too. And
Yeah.
what I love is that you said anxiety is information.
Yeah.
It's
Which
not
I
just it's not just, "Yep, I have anxiety."
right.
It's like,
It
no, it's information.
yeah, it's telling you where you are and where you're, like, overproducing emotion, you're overproducing a reaction. But there's a reason for it,
Mhm,
right? So it's not
mhm.
like we're having anxiety for no reason and you're just, like, sitting in a padded room and, like, freaking out. Like, you're no, like,
Yeah.
life is happening and it's bringing up all of these things. What I there's something was thinking this, like, correlates in a way, I promise, but, recently I had, a medical situation. I was telling you before we started, I had surgery this week, and I have a lot of medical trauma and a lot of medical history, and so when new things come up, I have a moment of really anxiety and this moment of like, "Oh my god, like, what is this gonna be?" Because
Uh,
I've had the worst case scenario, right? Like, I've been in a
sure.
coma and a ventilator. Those like that's like a huge fear for people, and I've been there. So, and it started as like vomiting. So, like, I have a
Oh,
pain or I have a new medical test or something happens and it triggers anxiety and it triggers a PTSD that I've
mm,
never really been diagnosed with, but do I really need
mm,
like someone else to tell me? Well, I clearly have it. I was journaling about this and I had just this moment where I was like, oh my God, PTSD for me anyway is it's like something happens and it puts me in this room where I'm experiencing this medical situation, for example. All of a sudden, now I'm in every one of those rooms at the same time. So I'm
mm.
in the room with the meningitis, and I'm in the room where, my daughter was born and it was so traumatic, and I'm in the room where they told me I have kidney disease, and I'm in the room with the biopsies, and I'm in the all of these rooms are like all at the same time.
Yeah.
And for me, that is how this PTSD is like playing out. And to to have it visually for me in that way was huge because now I can pull back and be like, okay, Garcia, like you're not in all of these rooms. You're in this room. Put your
Mhm.
feet on the floor, like feel your butt in the chair, feel the air around you.
Yeah.
Name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch. Like do the grounding practices that bring you into this room because you're not in all of those other rooms. You survived them already.
Yeah.
So I just like totally went around the anxiety, but I feel like it was such a big moment for my own anxieties and my own PTSD that I don't know if it helps any person out there to be like, get out of all the rest of the rooms. You've already survived them. Come back
Yeah.
to this one because it brings everything back down.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that was a beautiful way to put it. I like that. 'Cause our brains is when that happens, our brain's trying to protect us, like, "Remember this happened, you know,
Right.
protect yourself, be careful,"
Yes.
you
Yes.
know? Yeah.
So anyway, getting back to my daughter. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's okay, it
Uh,
was great.
I go on little tangents. So my daughter, yes, I had to explain to her, and we had to kind of find our way through the anxiety together because her panic attacks were information. She was overwhelmed with her own sense of, will people judge me? Am I a failure? What am I doing wrong? How am I going to overcome this? Like all of these messages were coming at the same time and presenting as anxiety.
Mm,
So we learned to sit through her panic attacks and try not to force our way through them and then take in the information, like what brought you to this point and what's creating this anxiety and why are you feeling this way, like where did it take you. And it has been huge, huge for her anxiety, for her panic attacks, and for our communication so that I could be there
sure.
to help her through it or help
Yeah,
her on the other side of it.
yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Oh my goodness, April, I feel like we could just keep going.
Talk all day. I'm a copy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're good. So tell us, where could people find the book? Where could they find more about you?
Yes. So the book is called The Room to Be Brave, and it's on Amazon at The Room to Be Brave. I also have, you can find more information about me and my speaking opportunities, my events and whatnot at aprildaygarcia.com. I'm also running, I just opened the Find Your Joy project. And this is near and dear to my heart. I started this actually in 2020 during the pandemic, which is who was focusing on joy during the pandemic except this crazy lady. And essentially, what it is it's really meant for the women in midlife. So
Mm.
I don't know if you know anyone like that, but this
Hello.
when you get to this point in your life where you have, you've gone your 20s, you're trying to figure stuff out and just stay alive. And then your 30s, you're doing for everybody else. And in your 40s and in your midlife, you have this almost time and space to figure out who you are and what you like. And we don't know what to do with that. Right. So
Yeah.
the amount of women I've talked to that are empty nesters and their kids are just older and more independent. My daughter's 16, so she's doing her own thing now. And I'm like, what do I do with myself?
Yeah, here I am.
And yeah, so I started this community where we are trying things. We're just doing stuff and trying things, which sounds so simple, but it's essentially like
Oh,
we took a class on numerology and we took a class on crocheting and macrame, which I hate. We took a class on meditation and color theory and how color plays a role in your life. We did a pole dancing class for exercise. Just
oh my
tried all
gosh.
of these things, and you find what you love and what you hate, and it narrows down, I get who you are now and what you like. And it's
Oh,
based for joy, honestly. At the end of the day, what you're doing is you're actually creating a space in your life for joy. And I don't
mm,
think in our 20s, joy looks totally different. And in our 30s, we don't
yeah,
have time or the wherewithal for our own joy.
right.
So now it's like it's our turn to figure that out. So
Oh my
that
gosh.
is also on my website, and it's a community that anybody can join. April is the first month that I'm kind of revamping the system. So it's not a local community, it's a broad community. It's free. So sign up, and
Oh
the
my
first
gosh.
challenge is launching on Tuesday, and it's the day before April Fool's Day, so it's perfect. It's like just being silly and fun, and I'm excited to share. I haven't shared what it is yet, but it's
Oh, okay.
very exciting.
Oh my
But
gosh.
yeah, I hope people go to if you go to aprildaygarcia.com, and then there's a page on there called the Find Your Joy Project, and just join. And it's the no pressurist, like
It's just fun.
very, yeah, no time commitment. It's like 10 minutes. It's so fun. So
Oh my gosh. I'm totally signing up for that. That is so
yay! I,
cool.
I hope
Yeah.
everybody who's listening, who's in this phase of their life, takes, even if you're not signing up for my program, just take some time for joy because we've been through it. Whether your story looks like mine or it's not as severe or it's more, we've been through it. Like it's our turn to make some space for joy. So that was the other place where you can find me. But otherwise, I'm on social media at The Room to Be Brave.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, I'll put links to that in the show notes, of course. And I usually ask for one last message, and you kind of just did it. But is there anything else you want to say before I say goodbye?
Not, I think I covered most of everything, but I just one of the things I do like to remind people is that your past, it does not define you. Your courage does. So just keep pushing forward and, healing and finding your joy are the ways to get to the truest you. And, you know, I hope that we can all find our way to that.
Wonderful. Wonderful. April, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for spending time with me today.
Thank you. This was so fun. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll talk to you soon. Thank you for listening to Midlife with Courage. If you liked what you heard, I would love it if you would leave a review. Until next time, take care of your beautiful self.